Hi, I'm Michelle Phillips of Codefetti, and in this video we're going to look at how you can back up a WordPress site. Best of all, I'm going to show you how you can use the Updraft Plus plugin to back up your site for free. I found it to be extremely reliable and a great way to create a local installation of a WordPress site. So let's get started. The first thing you're going to want to do is go into your WordPress site, go to the dashboard, go to Plugins, and then click Add New. Search for Updraft Plus and click the Install Now button. Activate the plugin, and we're ready to go. Okay, so we have a fresh install of the Updraft Plus plugin, and let's take a look at the tabs here in the dashboard. The current status will show you your scheduled backups and your last backup job run. Keep in mind this is a fresh install of the plugin, so nothing will be set here. That's why your existing backups is also showing 0. There are no backup sets to display. Now the Settings tab is probably one of the most important things for you to pay attention to. Here's where we're going to schedule our files and database backups. You can choose manual or any of the options within this drop-down box. You can also choose how many scheduled backups you wish to retain. Same with your database backup. Additionally, you have the option to send your backup sets to remote storage. I highly recommend you do this. It's not a good idea to keep your backups on the server where your website is installed. If that server got hacked or something happened and it crashed and you lost your website, you would not be able to get to the backups. And that could be a really critical problem. So make sure that you store your backup sets remotely. And as a further precaution, I always download a set of the backups to my PC. So I in effect have 2 backup sets, one in remote storage and one locally. This way, if I have to do an emergency restore of a WordPress site, I'm covered. Okay, let's move on. Here in the settings, you can also specify what files you want to include in the backup and whether or not you get emailed each time the backup is complete. We'll come back to these in a little bit. The advanced tools is something that I never even use, and basically are there just for debugging and troubleshooting issues. And finally, premium extensions is a list of all the options that come with the premium version of Updraft Plus. Now, I'm not an affiliate and I'm not getting paid to promote this product in any way. I just recommend it because it works and I'm confident with it. But if you're a developer, you might want to consider looking at some of the premium options and see if it would make sense for you. Updraft Plus also has a lot of add-ons, and I'll cover those in a little bit too. But first of all, let's go back to current status and let's see how easy it is to take a backup. All you do is click the Backup Now button. You can opt to include the database in the backup or include any files in the backup. Now, I really recommend that you, unless you have a ginormous database, just back up everything. Include your database and include your files. It's the simplest way for a point of restoration if you needed to do so. Always back up your plugins, your themes, your uploads. I think it's a good idea to back up everything. Other designers and developers may have different opinions, but I normally work with small business owners who basically want to have a fail-safe way of backing up their site. They don't want to have to jump through hoops should they have to restore their site. So this is why I'm recommending that you back up everything and then you can restore it all with a one-click restore. So what we're going to do now is just click the Backup Now button. We're not going to send this to a remote storage at this point. We're going to keep it simple. And you'll see how it's giving us a progress bar. And when we go to the Backups tab, we see that there is now one existing backup that was taken today, which is May 27th. Now, there are 5 different files within this backup set. There's a database file, a plugin file, a theme file, uploads, and others. The reason why Updraft Plus works is because it does this. It chunks the website into these separate entities. So on servers where resources are very limited and most hosts are cranking down resources for websites, you can be assured that your backup is going to complete because it works quietly in the background and it chunks everything into these 5 different sets. Now, if you have a huge website and you've been blogging for years, there's a good chance that you are going to have many more than 5 zip files within this backup set. But let's just take a look at what this looks like. I just click the database button, plugins, themes, uploads, and others. Right now, these 5 sets of data are sitting on your web server. I said to you earlier, it's not a good idea to keep your backups there. You can keep them there as long as you download a copy or send a copy off to remote storage. So at this point, I would simply download to my computer. I would download each of these 5 pieces of this backup from today, and I would store them in a backup folder for this client. Here are our downloaded backup sets. Notice how they're all compressed into a zip file. We have uploads, the themes, plugins, and the database. Now I'm just going to close out these little windows. And you'll see here also we have a view log. This log will be mailed to you if you set it up in your settings. Always check the log, or if you get a notification from Updraft Plus via email, read the email and make sure that it says the backup apparently succeeded and is now complete. You can download the log file if you want. Now at this point, I could click the delete button and it would delete this backup set from the server, but I'm not going to do that just yet. Next, we're going to take a look at settings. Okay, so now we're going to look at the settings tab. As I said earlier, this is probably one of the most important pieces of the Updraft Plus plugin. Here's where you can set up your backup schedule. It's important to understand that the default is set to manual for both files and the database. What this means is you are going to have to manually do your backup, as I did in the prior segment. In other words, you're going to have to go to your current status and click the Backup Now button. That's called a manual backup. If you want your backup to be automated, you're going to have to schedule how often you want the backup to happen. I recommend, if you're doing a lot of work on your website, to at least do a daily backup. Once your site is published and stable, you should set up backup at least once a week, or do a manual backup anytime you have done significant changes. You can retain as many scheduled backups as you want. However, be reasonable about it. Keep in mind that the more scheduled backups you keep, the more disk space you're requiring either up on your web server, locally, or in your remote storage. As a rule of thumb, I like to keep at least 4 backups. And it's also very important to make sure that the backups are working properly and that they're good backup sets. But just keep in mind that you need to test your backups to make sure they're good, because just as bad as not backing up is having a corrupt backup that you can't restore. The remote storage option will depend on what you have and what you're willing to pay for. You probably know that Dropbox and Google Drive give you a certain amount of free storage. That's fine, but Dropbox especially is much more limited in the amount of storage they give you, so you'll run out of space quickly. If you have a Gmail account, your best bet is to send your backup to Google Drive. There you have 15 megabytes of storage Always include all the files in your backup, just to be safe. And then I would check your email box. Select emails so that you get a report mailed to you every time a backup is done, and you can ensure that it ran properly. That's pretty much all that you have to do here. Now, each of the remote storage options are going to have their own configuration that's beyond the scope of this video, but the Updraft Plus documentation is excellent and will walk you through it. So stick with what you have, where you have free storage to start, and then if you need to move up, you can always purchase more remote storage. Finally, I just wanted you to be aware of Updraft Plus add-ons. They have a lot of inexpensive add-ons that will extend the functionality of their free plugin. I've purchased the Migrator add-on, which is great for developers who need to create local copies of a website or publish websites from one domain to another. It does a great job of taking care of all that for you and changing the URLs within the database. So take a look at some of the add-ons and see if any of these might be something that you would find of value. We're not going to go through them all right now, but I just want you to be aware that there's quite a few inexpensive ways to extend the functionality of Updraft Plus. I really hope that this tutorial has been helpful to you, and if you have any questions, please feel free to leave them in the comments. I try to answer them all. Take care, and I'll see you the next time.